All right, Zan, I want to keep this brief. I just don't know how brief we can keep this.
Hey, no worries. If we got to stretch it, we can.
All right, I just every time you look at me, I feel bad somehow.
I'm sure the mask doesn't help, but I do feel a lot better just having it, even though I know
I hope people realize how serious this can be. So
absolutely.
But either way, what we're talking about is also very serious, but it can be a bit lighthearted in the way we talk about it. That's going to be my question to you of what happens after the FaZe lawsuit wraps up.
That is a fantastic question.
And I can give some people out there some quick background details. It should be at least there's 2 current lawsuits, one in New York, one in California. It seems that Turner or Tfue is actually favored in the California one. The New York one might be a bit back and forth. We have a video breaking down the 2 sides of those arguments. They're very much summarized, and we could see that first lawsuit close as early as the end of this month, expected maybe to go into the next month as well. But either way, it closing is much sooner than we thought. And Zan, you know as well, we've already talked about the conspiracy theories, the fact that Banks and Tfue have been very friendly and hanging out and partying. And I think a lot of people are wondering, where will this go once it's over? Does it just blow over and all of a sudden Tfue's on his own and FaZe is on their own? What do you think happens? Give me something spicy.
That's a good question. I don't know if I can give something super spicy. We already talked about how this could have just all been a bit of a misdirect, something to just draw views for both parties. But I think we're one way or the other. Tfue is not going to be in FaZe by the end of this. I believe. I think that's going to be a core part of whatever agreement they reach via court.
Whether loss or win for either side.
Yeah. I don't think either side wants him in the organization at this point. I think what's going to be most important is how much money winds up getting shelled out. From either FaZe to Tfue or from Tfue to FaZe.
I love asking these questions because I don't think people see that angle. And I especially want to touch on that, pardon the interruption, the fact that it could be FaZe shelling out a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think people can be misled by valuations of these esports organizations and how much standing cash they actually have. And so the fact that Tfue winning, if he does win, albeit maybe they've reached some sort of settlement so it's not as detrimental if FaZe lose. But, not many organizations have millions standing in cash.
Yeah, not in pure liquid money. I'm sure even though FaZe just bought that huge compound, that huge team house rather, that was not all in. They didn't walk up with a huge briefcase and go, "Hey guys,
mansion,
80 million,
mine,
right here on the desk. Let's go." It's all this stuff is very complicated in that sense. I'm sure their money is tied up in a lot of their current projects. So if they wind up losing this lawsuit really badly, that could actually very strongly damage their prospects going forward, especially because they've already lost millions with the effect on their homestand this year.
Yeah. It's just wild to me though. We'll reference back to Devin Nash, who actually, when we first brought all this up, he thought that FaZe Clan vehemently was done. And even so going forward, especially if they lose the lawsuit, and if it went to a lawsuit and they lost, he said they would be done financially. It's kind of wild to think about as well. This lawsuit obviously costing both sides probably hefty amounts of money to just do this lawsuit.
Right.
But you got to think about as well. I think during this same time is when FaZe Clan has finally announced all this public investment, and so it's just really weird to think all of these angles that, albeit it's probably cost them a lot of money, and we've talked about the possibilities of this being for publicity and viewership, and it being financially maybe worth it for them to do this as a hoax, but it's probably not a hoax. Just saying it's a possibility.
No, yeah, the option is out there.
Yeah. And it's weird to think in these last few months or over these past several months where it's been going on, we've even announced they had a $30 million investor come in and say, hey, I know you're tied up in the biggest lawsuit ever in esports, at least when it comes to player versus organization, but I want to give you a $30 million loan or so. It was a lot of money.
Yeah, it's nuts to see people so confident in FaZe, and I honestly can't blame any investor at this point. I don't know any other organization that could survive having High Sky in that very iffy situation.
All of this stuff, bro.
It's like if you go down the list of controversies that would end any other organization, FaZe had survived at least 3 of them, maybe more, probably closer to 5 or 6 at this point. 3
sizable ones and many minor ones as well. It's wild. I just love getting your take on that kind of stuff. I think we can both agree that some of the the spicy stuff is likely not to happen, but the fact that it's a possibility,
it's nuts.
Gets us very excited for this end of this month, and of course into next month we'll see what happens with Tfue and FaZe Clan.